Hey guys, in this video, we are going to decide on your domain name, and I'm going to give you some different tips and tricks for choosing your domain name. So let's get right into it. All right, so when it comes to choosing a domain name, you can choose either a personal brand or a branded company domain name. The number one thing I would say is to not overthink this process, because when I first got started, I spent a ton of time trying to think of my domain name. And in the past, people would use these really specific domain names. So say they were talking about backyard tents, they would have backyardtentreviews.com or something like that. And nowadays, your domain name is not a ranking factor on your website. And so I would highly recommend choosing a domain name that allows you to pivot and also that allows you to just build a brand in general. Hey, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jake Full, and I built a six-figure blogging business all on the side while I was working my 9-to-5 job. And I was able to quit my job and go full-time as an entrepreneur, doing what I love every single day. And I want to teach you exactly how to do the same. And so if that sounds interesting, make sure to click the link in the description below and sign up for my free 30-minute blogging masterclass. It's an entire overview of blogging and affiliate marketing and how easy it is to get your own website started, create a brand online, and start generating passive income every single month, because I have built entire website templates in a box that you can import in less than 1 minute. And then I also have over 400 individual website templates that you can mix and match however you would like to create pages and blog posts 10 times faster than anybody else out there. And so make sure to click that link in the description below and get signed up for the free training. And let's get back to the video. So let's go over a few tips of things that you should do when you are choosing a domain name. Number one is that you should make it memorable. And so if you have this really long, complex domain name, it's going to be really difficult for your visitors to remember that. And then if they ever want to go back to your site, or maybe they're just Googling you, they're going to say, hey, what was that name again? And they're not going to remember it. And so I would highly recommend choosing a domain name that is easy for others to remember. Number two is to make it shorter rather than longer. And this also goes in hand with make it memorable. So in general, the shorter that you can make your domain name, the easier it will be for others to remember that domain name. And so say you're going down the personal branding route and you have a really long, complex name, you should be thinking about if there's any way you can shorten your name, or maybe use some initials or whatever it might be that would help shorten that domain name and make it easier to remember. Number three, and I would say this is the most important thing when choosing a domain name, is to make it pivotable. Believe me when I say that when you're just starting out, you think that you know exactly what it is you're going to talk about for the next 10 years. But the fact of the matter is that your interests are more than likely going to change, or you're going to want to expand at some point in the future. And so if you choose a domain name that does not allow you to pivot, it will hurt you in the future. And so now let's talk about a few tips of things you should not do when you're choosing a domain name. Number one is I would recommend not using hyphens in your domain name. So for example, start-blogging.com. The only thing that hyphens are going to do is confuse your visitors. And if you tell people what your domain name is, it's going to be really difficult and annoying to tell people that there's a hyphen every single time in your domain name. Number two is you should not use confusing numbers. And so if you were talking to someone and you told them that your domain name was farm to table, people are going to be wondering, is it farm to table spelled out like T-O? Or is it farm to table as in the number 2? And so if you have confusing numbers in your domain name, it's only going to hurt your brand and cause confusion. And now I know you might be thinking, hey, you have startblogging101.com, but that 101 is a mainstream phrase that is used all over the internet. And in general, people know that it means 101. And so there are definitely cases when you can use numbers that aren't confusing, but I just want you to be aware and not use confusing numbers in your domain name. Number three is do not pigeonhole yourself. And this goes in line with making it pivotable from the previous section. And so I just really want to stress to not pigeonhole yourself, because your interests are very, very likely to change at some point, or you might expand in the future and want to talk about other topics. And so if I could start over from scratch today, I would absolutely go down the personal branding route. And the reason for that is because you can simply use yourname.com. And that makes it super, super easy because number one, you're using your name. Number two, it is infinitely pivotable because you can talk about whatever it is that you are interested in. And number three is that you are the niche. Everything that you are interested in and that you write about is your niche. And whether you believe it or not, there are thousands of other people out there that are interested interested in the same exact things that you are, even if it's a combination of things. And so the very first blog that I started, I was writing about every single thing that interested me. And so I was talking about WordPress, I was talking about technology, I was talking about music. And now, even though today I would not recommend just writing about all of these crazy topics right off the bat, you can absolutely expand in the future. And we'll talk about this in later videos, but I would recommend picking one topic that you know very well and writing a number of different articles around that topic, such as informational articles and transactional articles. But if you are really undecided on your domain name and you want to write about whatever it is that interests you, I would highly recommend going down the personal branding route. And so now let's go over how you can search for domain names and see if they are available. And so a website that I really like using is instantdomains.com. And this will allow you to plug in different domain names and see if they are available or not. So for this course, I'm going to be focusing on two different personal brands, a male and a female. And I actually used AI to help me come up with their names. And the male's name is Ethan Blackwell and the female's name is Natalie Wood. And so let's go in and try to find a domain name to use for these personal brands. So here on instantdomains.com, you can see it says find your perfect domain. And I'm just going to click in here and search for Ethan's name to see if it's available. So I'm going to type ethanblackwell.com and hit enter. And now I actually already purchased this domain name. And so that's why it is taken. But this was available. And so you can see that Ethan Blackwell, his first name, last name.com is what I was using. And if it is taken, you will see that it is red and it shows the who is on the right-hand side here. But as I mentioned, this is because I have already purchased this. But then you can also see all of these different domain extensions that are available. But I would highly, highly recommend always using a .com domain if possible. So once you do find your domain name that is available, do not purchase it through this website or anything like that, because I believe it sends you to GoDaddy. But we are going to go and actually register this domain using Cloudflare real shortly in a later video here. But now let's focus on finding a domain name for Natalie Wood. So if we come up here and type nataliewood.com, this is already taken. And you can see that nataliewood.com is taken, natalie.us is taken, natalie.co. And it does give you some other suggestions on the right-hand side here of domain names that are available. Sometimes these are good, but other times they just add a word to the end and that might not be what you want. And so let's talk about some alternatives that you can use if your name is currently taken. So if you remember from my tips of things that you should do with your domain name is you should make it shorter rather than longer. And so for Natalie Wood, perhaps she goes by Nat for short, and we could try natwood.com. So let's come in here and I'm just going to delete the ALIE. And you can see that that actually is available, but someone has that for sale and it is a really expensive price. And so we definitely do not want to use that. But you can see how short and memorable natwood.com is. And so I don't blame someone for purchasing this and putting it up for sale. And so since natwood.com doesn't work, perhaps we could put a middle initial in there. And so say Natalie's middle name is Marie, you could put an M in there and have Nat M Wood, and you can see that that is available. Another suggestion that I like doing if your name is taken is adding the word by before it. And so if I get rid of the M here, and maybe we want to say by Nat Wood. And this says it's taken, but this one, it was also purchased by me because this was available. And I really like the name bynatwood.com. It's very simple. It still is using a personal brand name. It is completely pivotable because you don't have the word trainer in there or something. You know, say that Natalie is a personal trainer, for example. Many people would put nataliewoodtrainer.com or something like that. But what happens 5 years down the road when she expands out and does something more? If you simply just have your name, you can pivot as much as you would like. And so like I said, once you find a domain name, ideally it would be a personal brand with your name and you would have a .com at the end. It will show green here and you know that that is now available. Then you are ready to go and register your domain name. So hopefully this video helped you decide which domain name you are going to use for your blog going forward. That's all I had for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.